For the next DIY, I wanted to make a mermaid tail, or I guess you could even say a whale tail, out of some Dollar Tree signs. I liked these smaller plank signs from the Dollar Tree. These are the smaller ones out of the two. I'm going to do 3 across, and then to put them all together, I'm going to use a larger sign. This is one of the wood square signs from the Dollar Tree. It's not ideal because I want this to be rectangular and it is square, so I'm going to have to cut it down. But I thought it would be cheaper than using more of the wood panels on the back because, look how much more wood you got there for $1.25. I do want it to look like a wood panel sign with thick wood boards like that with a little bit of gap in between them. What I did is I flipped them so the openings, the little holes are on opposite ends to make them look like wood planks. And I'm going to glue this on. I'm going to start on one side of the wood square and just glue these on. Be careful. I accidentally dropped mine, got hot glue all over my first board. I had to go in and clean that up, which does affect how it stains. But I'm going for a old driftwood feel to this, so I actually added the project by adding a little imperfection to it. So I glued those on, just reversing where the openings of the holes were. I'm going to go to my saw, cut that down close to the panel. My saw did kind of chew up this sign a little bit, but again, I wanted it to look old and distressed, so I think it's going to work well. I did have to make a hanger here for the back because I noticed when I added the boards to it that the twine kind of got in the way from the original hanger. So I just took some twine and knotted on both sides. It's now thick enough that I can use my staple gun. I'm just going to make sure that I put it a couple of inches from each side so it will hang evenly with some twine here and burning off any fuzzies. I want this to look like old driftwood. The best thing that I have found for driftwood is to mix some ivory paint with some Antique Wax by Waverly and then distress it with Antique Wax by Waverly. It gives you a great driftwood feel. The perfect shade of, I guess, tan, and I'm going to go over all of the boards. Layering these wood signs from the Dollar Trees together made the sign a lot thicker and more substantial, which is what I'm going to need because we're going to be adding a lot of elements to this that are going to be kind of heavy. And I really wanted this to be a flat board sign, no bowing or anything like that. And this worked really well. So if you didn't want to do the square sign and you didn't want to do the cutting on the original sign, you could always find a rectangular sign to attach your boards to as well. I distressed it with the Antique Wax by Waverly to give me a wood grain. And this is the tail we're going to do. I think it looks more like a mermaid tail, but it could also be considered a whale tail, I guess. What I want to do is I want to do a really cool shell-encrusted mermaid tail coming out of the ocean. And in the ocean, I want to make out of sea glass from the Dollar Tree. Now, I didn't like the pencil lines last time, so I'm going to do one of the chalk markers from the Dollar Tree. This time, try some chalk. This actually worked a lot better. But I designed this printable of this mermaid tail. I will include a link to this printable in the description of today's video if you want to recreate and you need a little stencil shape. I think it helps when you're trying to form something like this that you really want it to look like a certain shape. I just sketched that out with the chalk like that, and I'm going to decorate the inside of it. For this one, I wanted a larger shell and I wanted interesting shells. So these are some of the little shelled shells and jars from the Dollar Tree. I am going to use different ones of those. And then they also have just like the regular shell shapes like that from the Dollar Tree, but I was trying to do like medium and small ones, but I want them all to be different colors and to look really interesting. And we're gonna just start hot gluing these on in the shape of the mermaid tail. I did have to go into my stash for shells that I found at the beach to find more colors and options because I don't want it to be just 3 different shells. I want it to look really interesting. And again, just be really unique. I want all of my shells to be very unique. So I'm just going to start by hot gluing these on. I don't want them to be too big, so I did have to go through my stash and try to find some smaller ones. But again, if they had a little bit of color, I really like that. I'm just putting it together almost kind of like a puzzle and piecing it together. I want all the shells to be unique. If the shell is similar, I don't want it to be necessarily next to each other. And I'm just hot gluing everything on with my hot glue gun. I think that that's going to be plenty strong and a fun way to glue shells. I was wondering if any of you guys had any recommendations for your favorite way to glue shells. I, go back and forth with the tacky glue and the hot glue, but I didn't know if there was another kind of glue that I might be missing out on. So you'll have to let me know in the comments below if you have a favorite glue for your seashell crafting. As you can see, I did work in some smaller seashells from time to time, anytime I had a gap, and because I really wanted to keep that and retain that shape of the mermaid tail. Again, I'm trying to go on the inside of the chalk too, so that I will be able to go back and erase that and you won't be able to see any of it. But I filled in my entire tail with seashells. And as you can see, lots of different colors and variety. Whatever you have in your seashell stash will work. You might have to go to the beach first. To wipe off the chalk, I just wet a paintbrush and went around to clean that off. It worked really well and removed all of that, no pencil lines. So the chalk method, definitely a great way to sketch out your silhouette. But isn't this looking so pretty already? I love the variety of the seashells. Now, the sea glass from the Dollar Tree has changed a bit from what it used to be. It is now these nice flat pieces, and you can get the ones like this that don't have the royal blue in there. Now, you could use the royal blue because we are making the ocean, but I had more the teal, the greens, the whites, but I think we can make it work. And I want to put it all over, so I just start like laying them out, kind of like puzzle pieces. I don't want too much of the clear, but I do want to use the clear, and I want to fill it up like this is going to be the water in the ocean. And then I'm just going to start hot gluing these on. I laid them out kind of a rough sketch. I do want them to be a little bit closer together, so I just glue them as tightly together, not quite touching, but I'm leaving the gaps pretty minimal in between and trying to fill this in just to make it look a little bit fuller. And this is going to represent the ocean. And I love crafting with sea glass. I think it's so fun. And I was trying to decide if I wanted to do a second layer or if I wanted to make any kind of bigger waves. I didn't really choose to do waves, but I did do a second layer just kind of here and there with the pieces just to make it look a little bit more full and add a little bit of variety to it. This is how it turned out, a little mermaid tail made out of seashells in a sea glass ocean. Didn't that turn out so pretty? A lot of those shells are from the Dollar Tree, and a lot of them are just from my pocket at the beach. And then the sea glass there is from the Dollar Tree.